Marfoogle TV going live in 3, 2, 1. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam A.K. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. We have a lot to go over in a short amount of time, so let's get right into it. And of course, today we're going to be talking about a lot, including UK and Sweden to join the fight. I mean, this is the most predictable thing I think that has ever been out there for a very long time. But of course, it's now one subtle step at a time happening. And of course, it's going along this path of Europe is going to continue going to war, even if we're not. So again, something will then pull us in, history repeating itself. But again, we'll talk about that here in a little bit. And then, of course, we will also be talking about the drone strike that happened before on Chernobyl. We'll bring that into it. Of course, that got this whole thing started. And then speaking of drone strikes, we have a drone strike hits Chevron and Exxon oil exports via Russia. A drone strike has hit a pumping station on an oil pipeline in Russia, reducing flows from Kazakhstan, the world's markets pumped by Western firms, including Chevron and ExxonMobil. Its operator said on Monday. The strike comes a day before the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was scheduled to meet Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Saudi Arabia for talks on ending the conflict in Ukraine. So as the U.S. is trying to pull out, there, of course, are these events like Thursday or Friday's drone on Chernobyl and the pipelines getting hit, right? The operator, Caspian Pipeline Consortium, said drones struck the Krapotinskaya, and I have no idea if I said that right, station in the southern Krasnodar region where work was halted to investigate the damage. It said that 7 drones were involved in the strike, which it called an act of terrorism, and it did not specify that the drones had come from Ukraine. It said these 7 drones. However, the official at Ukraine's SBU security service said that Kiev had hit the pumping station and nearby Ilsky oil refinery using drones. At least 20 explosions were heard in the vicinity of the refinery, the official said, asking not to be named, adding that the oil facilities were being used to supply Russia's military in its 3-year conflict in Ukraine. Ukrainian drones have repeatedly targeted Russian energy infrastructure, which is, I mean, it's they constantly cover how Russia is targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure, civilian energy infrastructure. It's kind of funny because they both basically say the exact same thing. And of course, they have targeted their energy infrastructure, and of course, including in the Krasnodar region. But Monday's attack would be the first on facilities involving Western oil majors. The CPC pipeline is the main export route for Kazakhstan, which supplies about 1% of the world's oil. Now, 1% does not sound wild until you really realize how much 1% of the world's oil is. It is insane. So this is a huge thing, and it is going after oil in general. This is kind of a no-touch zone. At least it's been said that this is something that you don't go after, both by, of course, Iran and Saudi Arabia and the Middle East. But, of course, always Russia has said the same thing about their pipelines and about their gas and their oil. They said that that's kind of a red line. Well, we've pretty much crossed every red line. And, again, they don't know who exactly did this because they didn't mention Ukraine by name. So I guess we'll see. It's about to get crazy. We're going to talk about all of the rest in just a second. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, let's get into it. And again, welcome to Marfoogle TV. If you've never been here before, remember you have a full bibliography available over on marfooglenews.com. You can go to Troops to Ukraine. Just look for today's thumbnail for a full bibliography of all of our sources, including every single article, tweet, video, picture, document. That is, of course, February 17th, 2025, the year all of it went crazy. Shannon Sissel, thank you so much. Says much love all, and thank you for the early super. I appreciate that. Stephen McMahon, Justin C. I don't know. I did get to you. Thank you, Vault, from over on DLive Inquiring Minds, Janet Kelly, Kenny Crowder, and so many more. And thank you, everybody that has already made it, including our awesome mods. Make sure to drop an M in the chat for the awesome mods right now, and check them out at marfooglenews.com/friends. You've got lots of great people over there, so make sure to go check them out. All right, let's get back into the news. We inside secret U.S. lab where U.S. will begin testing nukes again amid fears of World War III. Dex, do you want to go over that? Let's.
Yeah, certainly. So look, this is it's an old nuke base. It is just north of Vegas. It's an underground facility. Matter of fact, if you were to look at it, you can't really see much there because it's blurred out on Google Maps. But if you were to look there, it doesn't look like much. It's a couple of small buildings, but then there's this mine shaft, and in that mine shaft goes down deep to where we built our testing facility a long time ago, our underground testing facility for nuclear tests. And this location hasn't been used in, I don't know, 30 plus years, and it's now getting brought back to life, so to speak. So a secret U.S. nuclear weapons facility near Las Vegas may soon begin testing live boom booms again, as the global tension may be pushing countries into a new arms race. This is right after we just heard Trump tell everybody that he would like to see a de-armament of nukes so that we could all save money and spend a lot less on our defense budgets. So that's one position from the administration. At least that's a public position. But also, you got to understand that just because you want that doesn't mean you're not going to maintain the race while everyone else is still racing. Like you don't agree to all stop and you just stop and let everybody keep running. So it's clear though that they're bringing up this testing facility, bringing it back online. They took a tour. They brought some people down in to take a look. You can see some of the pictures in here. And that's where they're going to start testing again. They won't be like detonating large scale underground. That's sort of been off the table for a while, but they will be detonating miniature versions that allow them to measure and make sure things are working like they're supposed to work.
Now, as far as starting to test nukes again, I mean, this kind of contradicts what they're kind of putting out, like, hey, we need to reduce nukes. They're, of course, talking about now testing them. Everything that is forward-facing, and remember, this is what I said like a couple weeks ago. You know, it's like everybody does have a lot of trust in the current president, or at least a lot of people in our community do, right? But at the same time, I want to remind people he is the president. And as the president, it is a job that requires straight-up lying. Now, what we would love as citizens is if our president lied in our best interests, right? If there were things for national security that they had to lie about because if they said it, that it would put us in danger, then yeah, everyone understands that. There are some things that they shouldn't, put out there in the open because it could put people at harm. But at the same time, we have been lied to in the worst ways. We have been lied to about opinions. We have been lied to about straight up about what is going on. We've been lied to about fraud. There's criminal intent behind the lying. And of course, in some cases, there's criminal intent behind the good kind, right? There's regime changes. There's all these things that go on. There's these black money ops that go on all the time. But at the same time, he has just said, well, I'm talking to these guys. He is very good at getting people to really feel good. And I think it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Everybody is high on hope. But I have consistently said, that this is not going to be as awesome as you think. Because even if we pull out of all of these things and we tear down the current system, that means we're tearing it down. The current system that is set up right now, as corrupt as it is, was a system. And you start breaking the strings off of that, it very well might be the best thing that we have ever done. But there's going to be a period of transition where in between all of this falls apart. And I don't see how it could not. I mean, every little thing that they are doing right now is going to tear up the bad guys' stuff. I mean, we just covered this over on Marfoogle News. If you look at the trending searches in D.C., has just all of a sudden skyrocketed for criminal lawyers, offshore accounts, Swiss bank accounts, RICO law, statute of limitations. Like all of these things are just skyrocketing in D.C. area, which means all of these politicians are going, holy crap, we're about to get our dues. So that this is getting very, very concerning as far as what is going on with Europe and what is happening. We are testing front-facing. They're saying, oh, I've talked to them. They're great guys. They're awesome. Well, that's part of his make a deal mentality. He's kind of making them feel good. He's giving them compliments. He's trying to get them to, Putin to think that, Trump sees Putin as the only guy in the room. That Trump thinks that Xi is the only guy in the room. It's this thing that these guys at that level have in sales, the art of the deal kind of thing, is where they do this, where they make you feel like you're the only person in the room. Bill Clinton, they said they had the same thing, the Bill Clinton effect. And it is something that they do, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to work out some sort of peace with China or with Russia. Consistently, I've followed my gut on this, and I know many of you have too, and sometimes you veer off. Sometimes there's a lot of news, the same news that you don't trust at all, but yet if it agrees with your bias, all of a sudden you're like, oh, yeah, that totally, that makes sense. And then all of a sudden your view veers off for a little bit. But if you look at a timeline, you have consistently come back to, yeah, this is happening. Again, follow your gut on this, because there's a lot of events that all connect, and it's not hard to see. It's very obvious that the goal, at least NATO's goal, is to get into a conflict. And for us, that is mind-boggling. We can't see how they would want us to lose millions of lives. But remember, those millions of lives are people they don't care about. The end result of it, again, is going to make certain people billions, if not trillions of dollars richer. So, this whole thing, I think, is going to continue with or without the U.S. And the people at the very top in the shadows, they are going to make sure that the U.S. gets involved. They're going to put, I believe they're going to put the president in a position where everybody is going to be calling for him to do something. And they'll even be using his ego against him and saying, what are you, chicken? You're not going to protect us. You're not going to protect the United States. And then he's going to have to act. Like I said, if I was an adversary and if I was trying to put myself in the shoes of others, I would try to utilize and use the president's biggest strength as his weakness as well. That, his ego and his legacy and the things that he wants, pit that against him, and that puts us in a very precarious place. So again, I'm hoping that that's not the case, but again, it is something that we should all really, really, really be preparing for. By the way, Dex, somebody pointed out too, and I can't continue without a proper intro. I guess we just got off of Marfoogle News and I just did it, but I have to introduce you correctly. And let's welcome in Dex, my co-host and internet brother. What is going on, Dex, and how are you doing?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Fugel fam. I'm doing just fine.
You are.
Yeah, a lot of people they love that for some reason.
You're completely right. Well, it throws off like the routine.
Everything.
Yeah,
it does.
So yeah. And then before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield with all of the craziness going on, including in today's news. There have been a lot of events that tell us that, of course, we have adversaries that are working towards taking us off that top spot. And by us, the U.S., and by the adversaries, I mean China and Russia. More so China. An EMP could knock out our grid, and it would literally take out 90% of us in the first year if they did it the right way. That is why it is incredibly important to protect yourself, because at this point, the government and, of course, our grid is extremely vulnerable. They're nowhere close to hardened right now. And as far as the grid goes, there is an executive order to try to harden our grid to make it safer. But right now, it's archaic and it is, again, vulnerable. So if you want to protect your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators, ham radios, and even your home, then go over and get this device. It's the same device and the same company that's working with agencies like DHS, DOD, and the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. Go over to marfuglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. You'll save $50 off per device, and you will, again, support us in independent media and get yourself protected against not only EMP, but a Carrington-level event from the sun. It protects against both. Dex, go ahead.
Hey, speaking of EMPs, I saw William Forstchen, the American historian, author. Probably you may know him from books like The 1 Second After or 5 Years After. He's a famous guy. He was on Fox News today talking about EMPs, and he mentioned the fact that talking about what Trump had did last term, but he made a statement saying that he's aware that they're actually going to be bringing that back to the forefront as far as the readiness and preparedness from the White House, apparently. So I haven't seen that confirmed anywhere else, but it would be nice to see that kind of action again from our administration.
And again, this is something that on the back end, we knew that a lot of these companies that are contracted with DHS and DOD and all of these, they have been absolutely buzzing. Now, a lot of these companies are sworn to secrecy about some of their stuff. Like after that executive order, EMP Shield really couldn't talk about a lot of the stuff that they were doing. But one thing we know is that it is high up on the order. And a lot of that does come after events like when in 2017 or 2018, of course, the president was told that there were back doors in some of the transformers, or at least one of the transformers. They found some sort of back door. Now they have said that China is completely in our infrastructure, lying and waiting for a time to attack. You have generals, you have commanders, 5-star generals and commanders saying that they believe you will have a conflict with China by 2027, including Mike Minahan, who is in charge of shipping all military supplies around the world. He also made a side decision to essentially take off all of the identifying numbers on almost all of our cargo planes that fly all around. So a very weird decision, and that was after sending a memo to his people saying, get ready for war with China by 2027. Everybody thinks that everything is a distraction or everything is a hoax, but at some points you have to realize if it involves a lot of money, then it's probably not. That the military-industrial complex is one of the biggest money makers in history, and it will continue to be right next to big medicine and of course financial. All right, Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think the other comment he made about it was he was talking about the Iron Dome and suggesting that part of that system is to help prevent, because we don't have any prevention. Like there's zero prevention right now outside of hardening the grid, which isn't, we know it started. Like there's certain grids that have, like Texas, and we even had a Fugel fan member that's seen them install protection devices even from EMP Shield in on transformers on poles in other states, but they can't publicly talk about it. So we know they've done some things, but we're not prepared. Like we're basically toast if any one of our adversaries does that. So this whole Iron Dome scenario is one of those scenarios that could actually prevent, if it can actually reach and take one down. But the challenge is you got to take it out in space. It's not taking it down here on the ground.
Which explains a lot of the scientific, advances that are being made, the different asks that they're making to some of the smaller companies. Of course, you have the DoD asking small companies for different systems that can possibly take down satellites or lasers or systems that could detect them, track them, and even take them down. Mini rocket systems and things like that. There's a lot of stuff going on in the kind of scientific military area, like where they're all developing these things. All right, and then Zelensky warns Russia will wage war on NATO. So, Dex, you want to talk about over the weekend, he kind of went off. And again, a lot of stuff happened on the weekend. A lot of people were probably spending time with family, trying to get their 2 days off and just relax. But a lot went down over the weekend.
Well, if you're a federal employee, you got today off too. But nonetheless, happy President's Day. But you look, Russia is preparing to wage war. He says he was going all out. He said they're gonna invade Europe. They being Russia is gonna invade Europe. He is just, it's almost like the kid throwing a tantrum, but he is throwing every type of scenario out there about how the world is coming to an end if the U.S. is not supporting Ukraine, and if the U.S. is bowing down to Putin and allowing, the war to rage on. So yeah, he's up in arms, and you can just see it. And it kind of goes hand in hand with the events we've seen, like the pipeline we just talked about, or last weekend going into the weekend that strike on the nuclear plant. Although we don't know who did it. Of course they blame Russia, but it still could be anybody that did that. It's so rife, and you've got, the UK and others are all talking now about how they're going to have to support, and what are they going to do, and they're all scrambling for the US not being there. But they're not talking about let's end it. They're talking about let's continue it, let's grow it. It's going to be worse. It's going to be the end of the world. It's going to be a world war.
And, of course, they talked about, this is a direct quote from Zelensky. He says, I don't know if Russia will want 30% of Europe, 50%. I don't know. Nobody knows. But they will have this possibility if U.S. withdraws its forces from the continent, he said. Right? So raise your hand if you don't believe much coming out of Zelensky's mouth. I personally don't. But then again, I do see that they are putting a narrative out there that they want to continue, and they want to push it until it's true. I don't think that they're all doing this just to scare people. This is something that is being done on a global level. Us here in the U.S., we see this as, this. But any of the European viewers, I bet that many of you are taking this very seriously, because your countries are acting a whole lot differently. Your countries are preparing for war. Your countries are putting up trenches and dragon's teeth and fences. And, of course, they are putting up troops at their borders. So it's a difference. I think that the U.S. folks watching look at this a lot different than any of the folks in Europe do. Dex, go ahead.
Well, yeah, he turned down the deal. I think the deal was obviously one-sided, but remember the deal we talked about with regard to mineral rights and things like that. I'm sure if it was coming from Trump, it was going to be extremely one-sided and probably to try to make up for all the money we have spent over the years. But yeah, that deal got squashed too, and that was a deal where we were going to arm them, but we needed to get paid in return.
And All Things Random says, thanks for sharing the truth. Hey, thank you for making it to a ton of the shows. William Last, by the way, 11 minutes ago, just subscribed. Thank you. Welcome to the fam. And then, again, make sure to go check out the mods. They are doing an awesome job down in chat, keeping it awesome. And then Justin C., Inquiring Minds. Steve, thank you for joining. Thank you for subscribing. And then Jonathan Stilch. I can't say your name. I am so sorry, sir. But thank you for joining. And thank you for subscribing. Yeah, just all sorts of craziness with Zelensky. And actually, before we go to that, let's go to one of the main pictures here. We'll go back to Iran, warns Israel that you can't take us out. Let's go back and let's go to UK. Sweden say troops could head to a post-war Ukraine as Trump fuels a European collective security drive. Now, I have been saying this the whole time that this is going to go on with or without us. And you could see the signs that this was going to pull back, that we are going to pull back. We're not going to, in every way, we're not going to be sending money to these other countries. We're not going to be doing this. But I also questioned, in fact, I've questioned over the last few months, what if all of the money that they even find, and what if they are cleaning up the money, they're cleaning up the bottom line because we're about to need it. They're building an Iron Dome for a certain reason. They are, of course, putting 10,000 plus troops on our border for a reason. You know, we're being told it's because, well, of course, it's got a double meaning here. We've also got, 95% of the people that were coming in illegally are not coming in anymore. I bet that Fenny and other things are going to start drying up, right? But at the same time, there's this underlying thing like, are we really pulling back and we're going to say whatever's going on in the world, we're going to sit by and we're going to back ourselves up and we're going to think about us first. Now, many people support that. They're like, hey, America first. But at the same time, many people say that there needs to be some sort of mix about it. That, yeah, we shouldn't be sending money to make Sesame Street in Iran. But maybe we should have troops nearby, or that we should have troops around the world because that is what made us the most powerful country in the world. We've always got this sway because we have troops. Zelensky is mentioning, hey, if they withdraw their troops, hinting towards that the president may actually pull people out of NATO, that our troops might come home. What if that is the next headline in the next few months, right? That they say that they're pulling 10,000 or 20 or 50,000 troops back. Dex, isn't it like something like almost 100,000 U.S. troops are scattered around Europe? Isn't that?
It's a big number. I don't know what the current number is, but it's pretty big, yeah.
But what if we did pull all of those back, pulled them back from Japan, pulled everybody back and said, hey, you're all stationed here. We build a wall around ourselves, an Iron Dome, and let them all handle their business. Some will support this, but again, with the tariffs that are going both ways, they're sending out to all of the countries that are tariffing the U.S., with the tariffs on China, on Taiwan, on Mexico, on everybody, it really seems like we're pulling back, we're hardening our shell, and we're gonna kind of, harden up and say nobody's touching us. We're putting up the bulletproof glass, and we're saying screw you guys. We're protecting ourselves. And some say that is an action you take because things are about to go real south. And the person that's running it is going, well, we're not going to lose our people. We're gonna keep us safe, right? Which is this whole thing is incredible. Just everything that's happening right now. I don't think that a lot of people thought that half of the stuff that is going on just in the last month would ever happen in their lifetimes, and now it is. And now UK and Sweden are doing exactly what I thought would happen. And I'm surprised that France is not involved yet. But I believe Macron or France will be the next one that will end up coming and saying, yeah, we're going to send troops too. After Friday or Thursday, when we covered the drone hitting Chernobyl, we said this would be an event that's going to kick everything off and that it's going to get everybody to go, whoa, look at what Russia's doing. Big Russia just hit Chernobyl and put the world at risk. We all need to step in. Of course, there were calls for this back when North Korea joined Russia. And of course, Zelensky's saying, hey, I need you guys' help. I need more troops. And we know that they don't have the most troops in Ukraine anymore. The average age of the soldier is over 45. That means all the young guys on the front lines, they're gone already. They've already done their recruiting. They've already done their drafts. They've already tried to pull back people that left the country. So what comes after that? If this war is to continue, they don't have an unlimited amount of humans. Even if they have babies right now, they can't really continue this in 20 years. So where are they going to get their troops? exactly where everybody predicted from the rest of NATO. It is NATO infrastructure inside of Ukraine, and this I predict. And again, they're saying they're soft entering this into the narrative scheme, right? They're giving you the seeds of it, but they've already kind of given that to you. Now they're giving the soft open to NATO troops entering Ukraine. Dex, do you want to go over it? I mean, like, this is, everything is going exactly what looked very obvious, like a bad B horror movie.
Well, yeah. So, European leaders were meeting Monday in Paris, and UK and France are set to propose sending soldiers to Kiev. It sounds like the UK and Sweden are on board with doing that. I did read that Germany was sort of not on board. They were likely to reject it. So it's not necessarily unanimous across all of Europe. But it doesn't take all of Europe. It just takes a couple to get involved. And then does that change the game? And what do they mean by sending in, of course, they're talking about, they talk about collective security. They try to frame it as, well, we'll send troops in to keep the peace after things have been settled. But this is a soft step towards, well, let's just start putting troops in. And start going into conflict directly with Russia just in Ukraine.
And a very telling remark here says, we've got to show we are truly serious about our own defense and bearing our own burden. I think that's in reference to basically, if the U.S. isn't going to help, we're going to show we can do this on our own type of thing, right? We're going to pop in. It says, we are facing a once-in-a-generation moment for the collective security of our continent, Stormer said in a weekend editorial in Britain's Telegraph newspaper. This is not only a question about the future of Ukraine, it is existential for Europe as a whole. He said that the UK was prepared to, quote, play a leading role in accelerating work on security guarantees for Ukraine, including more military support and putting British troops on the ground as part of a peacekeeping force if necessary. Keywords here, okay? Peacekeeping force. We all saw this coming. This was predicted way back, that it would be done under the guise of a peacekeeping force. They have done it so many times in so many places around the world. Just Google peacekeeping force with World War II or peacekeeping force in other wars. You'll look and you'll see the dates on it, and it's shortly before something else, right? So this happens. This is so obvious what is about to happen. Europe is going to go to their war. We are pulling back, and we are going to get pulled in. It almost seems like it's a train that can't be stopped. Like I said, I don't think who was president is really going to matter, because the presidents only have so much pull. And geez, the current president is using all of it. Right now, they're tearing things up. But that also might have its own consequences, which may be bad temporarily, may be great later, or maybe something we don't see. Maybe where we don't have the sight to see that far ahead, and see everything ends up falling apart, or everything gets way better. Dex, go ahead.
Well, let's think about this too. We've got a new administration. Trump's in. Before he came in, there was all this talk, and they were trying to do things to prevent a president from being able to pull out of NATO. I don't know where that stands legally at this point, but just imagine because we're still part of NATO right now. Like, we have to oblige, Article 5. So if they start a conflict before we're out, we still have to participate. So the question is, would we just say no? And would we just let the whole thing fall apart? The whole, we got your back, you got our back, or, that's an interesting thing. I was like, are they trying to rush the war before the U.S. officially, breaks NATO apart to either force us in or force us out?
And I want to two quotes, but the last one is pretty eerie. I do not say that lightly. I feel deeply the responsibility that comes with potentially putting British servicemen and women in harm's way, but any role in helping to guarantee Ukraine's security is helping to guarantee the security of our own continent and the security of this country. Says U.S. will support and remain critical, and a U.S. security guarantee is essential for lasting peace. And this is the quote that I really, something, tell me what you guys think in the chat. Quote, the end of this war, when it comes, cannot merely become a temporary pause before Putin attacks again. The end of this war, when it comes, cannot merely become a temporary pause before Putin attacks. So is he kind of hinting towards that this can't end in just an agreement where they stop fighting for now? They can't agree in a ceasefire? Dex, what do you think about that last quote? The end of this war, when it comes, cannot merely become a temporary pause before Putin attacks again. Or am I missing a cadence too?
I mean, I think that's exactly what they're expecting. I think they're telling us like this: the conflict's either going to start soon, or if there is some semblance of a pause, it's still going to happen again. At least that's what they believe, and they keep saying it over and over. Like you hear Zelensky talk about it. Well, as soon as you stop, he's going to take all the troops, move them into Belarus, and get ready to attack the rest of Europe. I think he made a quote something like he was expecting 100,000 troops to be amassing in Belarus. I mean, he was just going, crazy town speak.
So something is definitely on the horizon. You have, of course, Poland's prime minister also stating, you have all these side comments in just the last month from Polish prime ministers. They're all making comments like Russia's about to attack, Russia's about to attack, Russia's about to do this, about to do that. And then you have France stating to its country, this is 7 months ago, saying, we have to be ready to send our guys. I mean, like they keep saying we have to be ready to. Now, I believe we're within weeks of them sending the first troops, if they haven't already. I mean, a lot of us know in Ukraine that there are other soldiers, right? There are other U.S. They say that there's contractors or that there's soldiers there just to run the equipment. When they sent the Patriot missiles, of course, there was all of these weird kind of people, U.S. soldiers that perished, but under these circumstances where it was like, oh, this guy went AWOL from the SEALs to go fight for Ukraine and then ended up perishing. Like he would have currently been, still in the military for us, maybe either Green Beret or SEAL or something like that. And then we end up getting an obituary stating that, oh, he went AWOL, left his spot, is basically going to lose respect and honor in his own military to go fight for Ukraine and ended up perishing there. Didn't make too much sense, again, but things like that happened over 8-month period. We saw a few of those. And it's like, or is that special, forces already in Ukraine? Most people believe that we already have people there. NATO already has people there, that it's NATO infrastructure, NATO soldiers running the Patriot systems and things like that. And the time frame that they said that they were training, soldiers on these extremely advanced systems and things like that. A lot of it didn't make sense. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the chat below. Which, again, I'll be pulling up here in a second. What do you think about this? Do you think that this is the soft open? All right, and then let's see. And then Dex, do you want to go over Iran warns Israel and U.S. can't do a damn thing to thwart Tehran nuclear ambitions?
Yeah. So senior Iranian official on Monday, he was in a meeting and between the U.S. and Israeli officials, and he was really throwing it out there, calling it a legal effort to thwart Tehran's nuclear ambitions, and basically saying, when it comes to a country like Iran, they cannot do a damn thing, he told the reporters. He took aim at a sit down between the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem on Sunday, just one day earlier. There is a lot of thought and a lot of discussion that's been going on, and we've even covered a little bit about it that in the last few days, but it's been amping up, I think, in the past few weeks about these potential strikes against the nuclear facilities, the nuclear capabilities that Iran allegedly has, or may be on the brink of having, or any day now, any week now, as they keep telling us for years. But nonetheless, there's supposed to be this strike coming. And is potentially an Israeli strike again, which they did a while back, but this time with the support of the U.S. So the question sort of comes is that going to happen? Like, a lot of people are wondering, will we move forward with that? Will we support? Is this what we're doing? Are we pulling out of NATO and Ukraine to go down and start up a Middle Eastern conflict with Iran? I just got to imagine that, all hell will break loose if we go in, pretty hard against their nuclear facilities.
Yeah, and most believe that anybody goes after Iran's nukes, that it's going to be like cornering a wild animal, that they're going to go off, right? We can't tell the future of what's going to happen exactly, but we can see the signs, we can see the direction this is heading, and it's not going in a great one. Rochelle Cooley, thank you for being here. A couple good comments. Somebody says, podcast said, when NATO sends troops into war, that's Article 5 time. Somebody else said, really, I don't know if you're asking, like, really, is that what it is? Or really, like, yeah, right. But either way, I don't know how that works, because honestly, if they choose to do something, that doesn't necessarily mean, like, if a NATO country decides to go to their own conflict, and in the opinions of others, it's like they're choosing to go into it, and then if they get killed on the battleground of something that they chose to get into, I don't think that that's exactly how NATO works, right? Like,
I don't think so either, Adam.
I don't think that's how Article 5 works.
Article 5 is if you're struck, a strike against any member of NATO is met with like kind with all NATO members again, backing it. So if you pick, look, if the U.S. the U.S. and NATO member goes into, Iraq and gets into a conflict, like the rest of NATO doesn't join in. We chose to do that. I think Ukraine would be that way. So sending troops in wouldn't necessarily evoke it, but it's certainly close.
But if Iraq did an attack on the U.S. and was attacking us, then NATO would come in. It's more of a defensive kind of thing. But I do believe, podcast fan, that it absolutely leads to it. I mean, that's what this is all leading to. And this isn't the end of the world nuclear war. This is a war that will have it will be a high-tech war. It will be one. This is why we've, of course, we talked about EMP shield. We talk about generators and things like this. In today's day and age, to knock down a country, you knock down power, you knock down communications, you knock down internet. And all three of those things right now, there's absolutely 1,000% evidence that all three of those are not only targeted, but possibly lying there just waiting for it to just all snap out, right? To all happen. So this is the thing that we really need to pay attention to, is that people need to be prepared for, all of these things that we take for granted to be pulled away in a mere second. I won't have this channel to tell you when it happens. Like they say the revolution will be televised. I don't think so. I don't think anything will be televised once this stuff goes down. That's why preppers, we look at things, in a different light. Some call it pessimism, right? I don't think it's pessimism. I think it's optimism in a disaster. Like in the worst disaster that happens, prepping is about, when it happens, looking at that situation the most positively, right? To try to make it out of whatever you can. And honestly, it's how the military is. The military drills and drills and drills for the most unlikely events. And they do it like it's muscle memory. Everybody here should have food and water, especially right now. We're in 2025. It is not going to be an easy road back to normal, right? After CV, that basically wiped out the financial system of the world. We really, it's not super visible yet. I mean, it is visible. It's inflation. It's everything else. But it's all going to continue. We're not back to normal. The entire world has been different since 2019. And it was an open to something much, much bigger. And we all saw this. A lot of you guys saw this as well. You got to follow your gut on this one. The Middle East is everywhere is about to be lit on fire. But that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. And then, again, speaking into the bigger picture of things, meanwhile, while all of this is going on, well, the UK and everyone else, all they're covering is war, war, war. Like they're about to go into war. Meanwhile, over here, all we are paying attention to is how messed up our system was. Not to mention, half of our politicians are searching how to get themselves out of whatever legal bind that they believe they might be in very soon, and looking at Swiss bank accounts and offshore accounts. On top of that, our country is basically looking at our books and saying, holy crap, this might be the biggest fraud in history. That is a direct quote. This is incredible. They essentially say that there were people that were 140 years old still getting Social Security checks. There's all sorts of problems with everything. They've now gone through the Pentagon. They've now gone through they're doing something with the FAA. Dex, I'm forgetting there was a small list that's already been done that Doge has gone through. Now,
USAID, Treasury, I mean, they're going through it all.
Yeah, and now they're going through this. Dex, how is this the possibly the biggest fraud in history?
Okay, so let's be clear. He's saying it might be because it's not official, but there is a spreadsheet that he has shown where they took a list of not the Social Security numbers, but the people, like an aggregation of the data of people in Social Security, and they listed them all by year. And they took a list of the people who have what's called the death field set to false, meaning they're alive, right? They're not marked in the system as perished. So then when they took that look at that number, obviously you're going to see people at a very young age, like children that may be on Social Security for disability reasons or others, all the way up to normal ages as high as 70, 80, 90, even maybe 100. But then there's like 20.789 million Americans that are over the age of 100. 20 million Americans over the age of 100 that are not marked as deceased in the system, meaning they're still getting benefits. So, again, we don't know exactly what the data means, but if it is as bad as it is, and I don't think being over 100 is one thing. I don't think we have 20 million people over 100, but certainly, some of the numbers were way up there, like over 300 years old. I mean, over the age of the country, there are people in the system that are still getting, allegedly getting Social Security. So where's all that money going?
Let's see here. Let's see. Maybe like somewhere like that. Offshore bank accounts, maybe? I don't know. Maybe that's why Google is skyrocketing in searches of offshore bank accounts and Swiss bank accounts and Cayman Islands bank accounts. Yeah. Who are those checks? And by the way, Social Security checks aren't giant, right? But if you have a bunch of them going to a few other people, like, how did this happen? What's even funnier is you look back to this last week's kind of revelations about how we have our archaic and absolutely ancient system of essentially having our federal employees retirement and everything is in paper and manila folders put through like a little bank tube that goes down to a limestone cave and put in a straight up box, no computers involved. And it's like, what if a lot of that, what if that's tied into this, where you have other things that are all on paper that there's no way for Elon's, 22-year-old geniuses to go through and decipher this. And you just have all these 140-year-olds getting these checks when they've actually switched the bank account to somebody else's, and it's been that way for years. And somebody was paid to look the other way or possibly gets those same checks into their accounts, right? This is just super, super funky. Dex, go ahead.
Well, Georgia Representative Mike Collins, he had a pretty interesting point. He says, why don't we just pause everybody that's over the age of 120 and then let them raise their hand and say, figure out how many people there really are. They're saying, hey, I didn't get my money, that are really over 120. I think they could actually handle the phone calls. It's not going to be that many people, right, that are over 120 living in America. But yeah, and then get this, you guys may have heard this or not, but there's all these rumors that maybe Doge will actually, or maybe not them, but Trump will go in and take a look inside Fort Knox. Everybody's been wondering, is the gold really there? And it's not the first time that rumor has been around. They actually, I think in the 90s, they took a tour with some of the officials, including the governor of the state at the time, as well as some other officials, to try to dispel rumors about it. But I think the last time there was only a partial audit done was in like 1974, and I think only one president has ever been in there, and that was in the 50s. So a lot of people have always questioned what's in Fort Knox and if we really have our gold in there. So, but for that point, I will say this: there are vaults in there, and the vaults are sealed. So they've been counted, touched once, and sealed, and they leave the door sealed, and there's a seal mark on it. So the question is, would they just count the seals, or would they actually open the seals and have to recount them all? And the reason why people don't want to physically touch the gold to count it is because it does damage it over time. And if you imagine how much there is to count, if it's really that much, that a lot can be lost just from touching it.
Many financial experts believe that if all of the countries in the world that have, say, their gold or interests here, they all said, or if everybody said, hey, I want my physical gold and I want to pull it out. If there was a bank run so big that everybody's like, hey, I want my gold. A lot of financial experts, their fear is that we don't actually have that gold in there, that there isn't enough, that something else has been done. After this last 2 weeks, that's a scary thought, because if there's this much fraud going on all over the place, what do you think is happening with that system, right? And then, by the way, Laura Griffith says the only way is if the parent would be 120 years old and a child who is 50 is drawing against their Social Security number. Yes, that could be a fraud on the child's part, but how in the world would you have a government that wouldn't notice somebody that's 125, right? Which brings me to the next comment. Shastina says a total of only 6 people living at 112 years of age in the entire world. I don't know where that sounds like a reasonable fact, Shastina. I can't verify that. But if that's true, then yeah, it would be pretty easy to see, 19,999,000 and 9,097 or 93 that shouldn't be getting a check, right? Dale Jackson, the people who make the laws appear to be above them. No accountability. Yeah, and it's been that way for a very long time. And a lot of people are extremely happy that they're tearing this whole thing up. But it is an unknown area. We're going where no man has gone before. Or as they changed it to no one has gone before. Because this is unknown territory. We are heading into very, very tumultuous times. Tearing this all up, changing the entire system, it's going to be a wild time. So, as my buddy Jacob would say, buckle up. And then Happy Quails, they must have computers to have these stats. I don't know. Yeah, again, at least to those, the Social Security system, I don't know. I would assume they do have that on computers. But I wonder if that's tied into, you get Social Security tied in with the retirement system. But that archaic limestone system was only for the federal employees. But it totally makes sense, right? And then Wings and Wags Patriot, thank you. And I, by the way, I misquoted the other day. I said, oh, it's crazy that AI is like pulling out the comments. That's actually, you guys know what it is, and I didn't, because I've never seen it on my end when I'm in a chat. But when someone sends a super, you have the option to respond. So Wings and Wags Patriot says, I heard a report several years ago that SSA recycles Social Security numbers after a person has perished for a certain number of years. I don't know. I actually think I've heard that too, but I don't know if that is true. But Ryan Alter says, on the wings of awesome, WI is just your awesome. Thanks, Wings and Wags Patriot. Good to see you here tonight. By the way, those responses, they choose to go to that super. Now, all of you probably all know this, but I didn't, and I said that was AI. There is AI, creepy AI, that is on the back end for us. When you comment, somebody even made a comment essentially saying, bless Jesus, something like this. And the suggested reply was amen to that. The more that know Jesus, the better, or something. And I mean, it was like totally like this custom message. And I was like, holy moly, this added religion into the response, and it was all AI. So I thought that was absolutely nuts, especially since even that topic is filtered on this platform. Dex, go ahead.
I just want to clarify. A lot of people in chat were asking me. I don't believe moving gold around causes it to devalue or lose its ability or its the amount, but that there was some reason behind the physical counting of it that they said they don't do it and they don't want to do it because of something along those lines. But it sounds stupid to me. Just go in there and count the bars if they're really there.
Yeah, I mean yeah. I don't understand that either. That confused the heck out of me as well. And then Netanyahu reveals AI vision for Gaza's transformation after Trump's Riviera call. Do you want to go over what Netanyahu said about the Strip?
Well, I don't know what the AI part is, other than maybe the AI is the picture, but I guess the picture is kind of telling. It's kind of weird. It definitely looks like AI made that because there's just way too much green space. It's like an overload of green space. But this is supposed to be, they call it a striking CGI rendering of the proposed transformation of Gaza.
I call it garbage.
An urban oasis. But they say this plan mirrors Trump's idea to convert Gaza into the Riviera of the Middle East, as he announced last week. So this is what they suggested, but he put this up. Netanyahu unveiled this vision and unveiled a photo like this as a futuristic 2035 label, I think they put on it. So that's pretty far out when you think about it. It's a good 10 years. Well, of course, you can't build a city like that overnight. But it certainly, and there's some other pictures further down that are also, I don't know if they were part of his revelation, but yeah. We know something's up here. It's not going to be what it was before. It's going to be something different that's probably going to be more financially beneficial for the people involved. That's for sure.
Pixels and Green Tea says, why would anyone build so close to the water? Yeah, well, no, you have waterfront stuff, but he's saying an actual skyscraper on the water. That's kind of crazy, right? I don't know what it's like over there, though, along the Strip, right? What is the water like? Do they have, crazy weather events? What kind of weather events do they have? But I just think it's interesting. Yeah, this looks like somebody typed in, like, what will the world look like in 2030 or 2100 or something? And it just added a lot of grass to everything. All the rooftops, everything is grass. It reminds me of the Amazon building downtown Seattle. If you guys haven't seen this goofy-ass office, it is a dome that supposedly people work in, but it's like one big terrarium of octagons, and it's supposedly where the Amazon people, hang out. It's got all these bushes and trees and stuff, and people called it futuristic. Most people there called it stupid looking, but it reminds me of, that's what they believe the future is going to look like. Who knows, though? Maybe that will be. You'll add in plants and oxygen. Maybe that's what we have to do in the future. Who knows? Maybe that's a hint towards it, right? Let's see here. And then thank you. See here, thanks for being here, Vicky. Mike, Guyver, Labonte. They're trying to say that there's Nephilim in the Gaza Strip. Not in Malibu. Well, not anymore. The towers can stop the missiles. Yeah, that would be more believable if there were like SAM missiles on the top of them. That would actually, I would be like, yeah, makes sense. All right. And before we move on, make sure to go check out Grid Down if you haven't already. As far as our recommendation for solar generator, that would be the Bug Out. Again, the Bug Out, the main unit, is lithium iron phosphate. So it is actually a newer and better technology as far as the battery technology. It's lighter, so you can have a bigger unit like this with even just the main one has 1.69 kilowatt hours. So you have over 1,600 kilowatt hours just in the main unit. But it is carryable because it is actually much lighter. It is chargeable. This one in 2.3 hours. If you have the XP, you can actually have over 4,300 watt hours. If you end up getting both of them together, you can end up even getting a tax rebate. Why to go solar is because obviously you can charge this from the walls as little as 2.3 hours, but if things go down, if things go south, you can charge them from solar panels. Then you have unlimited power as long as the sun rises. And I'm pretty sure, I'll have to check the calendar, but I'm pretty sure it's rose every single day for our entire lifetimes. So it's pretty reliable as far as knowing that the sun is going to come up. Even if it is cloudy, obviously you won't get, even if it's cloudy, a lot of people think that they can't get power if they live in a cloudy place. That is not true. You will get less, but you will still get power. A lot of people from Seattle comment, because I'm from Seattle, saying you can't do this. I get power from mine and I charge mine via solar panels. So again, it is very, very cool. It is a very, very, very well built system. This thing is built like a tank. Again, we only recommend ones that we believe in. The main reason we believe in the Grid Down is they are tied in with EMP Shield. EMP Shield is protecting these. Every last one of these packages comes already equipped with EMP Shield. So again, it all has those included in the package price. So again, go over and check it out. I would definitely at least look at getting a Bug Out, and you can add an XP later. But again, if you do go with at least one XP, it hits that minimum, I think it's 3,000 kilowatt hours, where you can get a 30% tax rebate. Go to marfooglenews.com/bugout and make sure to use the code MARF. Another cool thing is if you've had other units, this actually has a cord built right into the back to charge. So you don't have to worry about adapters. You'll never lose it. It is built into the back and it stores on the back. And it has a 30 amp plug for anybody that, again, has an RV or a motorhome. It is going to plug straight in. Go to marfooglenews.com/bugout. And of course, check it out and make sure to use the code MARF. You'll give us a credit and you'll, of course, be getting a huge discount as well. Dex, go ahead.
I was just going to say, when you're done, go back to that AI story again.
All right. So let's see. Yeah.
There's a second picture. I don't know if you showed it or not because I can't see everything.
No, I only showed the one.
Oh, yeah. Go down to the second one. It's so funny. It's like a whole bunch of Teslas.
Oh, that's funny. I'm sure there's going to be articles in Vice tomorrow. Let's see here. Oh, that's horrendous.
Isn't it? It's a horrible picture. It's like
they look like dolls.
Worst AI rendering.
They are just on a civilian level here.
Yeah, you may have to scroll that one up for everybody to see it.
I do better. Yeah, let me zoom out a little bit. I do better for thumbs, and I'm an idiot. The cars look like the I don't know if you've seen it, but when you get Hot Wheels for your kid, the Hot Wheels monster trucks, and it comes with like the plastic mold that is like the already ran over car. It looks like a monster truck went through the parking lot. What is wrong with those cars? Like, they did this picture and they're like, yeah, this is the one. Somebody was like, yeah, that's the one. We're going to use that for the presentation. Like, you realize AI, and do you think it used Grok? Like, why do you think there's so many Teslas?
Yeah, exactly. He must have, like, you know, they were saying in the article, oh, they must have known about this. They spent time for many weeks talking about all this because he's got pictures. But he probably just literally typed into Grok, like, give me this, because that's about what it looks like. It doesn't look like anybody spent a whole lot of time on this one.
No, they probably said, give me a futuristic city in Dubai with a bunch of electric cars. And then they said, that's a wrap. These buildings, too, these are really... But this actually does look like it could be Dubai, because Dubai is making buildings like this. Like, that actually looks like... A couple of them look like the Burj Khalifa or whatever. I could see this being Dubai. I really could, in 2100 or something like that. But then you have all these futuristic buildings, but then these buildings... And what's up with the size? Is this like the library for kids who can't read small? Or... The library for kids who can't read good? Like, the guys are as tall as the building. I think the perspective's off a little bit. Yeah.
Well, the car is giant compared... The car up front is giant compared to all those little cars.
Yeah, like, there's no hill.
The perspective is way off, yeah.
It's just like they're 5 feet away from it, but yet it's too small.
Hey, it's good enough for Netanyahu, right?
That is funny.
He's probably just trolling the Middle East, right, with this.
Where's the flying cars? Where's the drones? Because that I would then believe. They might have had to add it. Inquiring Minds, you have become my family. Thanks, guys, and mods, and everyone else in the Marf chat. Ryan Alter says, you are awesome, family. W.I. Stin says, you're awesome, Inquiring Minds. Curb Creeper says, same here, no blood, family. Trying to get my own channel going slowly. Curb Creeper, just do it. Just get it done. And then Bobby Sue, thank you for the donation. Well, thank you. And again, thank you, Bobby, for calling that out. I appreciate that. And then thank you, Darren, for subscribing just now. Appreciate that as well. Let's see here. Sarah, thank you for subscribing. A few new subscribers. EricsPlace.com just became a member. I appreciate that. Thank you. And Nutsec909 in Canada, a plane crashed upside down. So we did cover that 909, and that is over on Marfoogle News. In fact, you can get to that by going to, of course, marfooglenews.com. I'll just quickly pull up the that video. So let's see. Yeah, so this one right here, elites are scared. Their searches will shock you. You can actually see that there, and there is video over there as well of not only the plane, there's photos and stuff like that. There's tweets attached to it. So make sure to always watch that other channel as well. The news channel, if there's something that I believe is like really something that you don't want to miss as part of like the ongoing narrative of what's going on, that's usually over on news, and it's a short shareable clip. So that's a clip that you could send to your family members because it's less than 10 minutes, or it's about, 12 minutes or something. Whereas if you send them an hour and a half show, not many people are going to watch it. Even if they see the little numbers in the corner that say it's over an hour, people are like, whatever. All right. And again, Trump suggests no laws violated if he saves the country. Of course, many reference this to the Napoleon leader, right? Napoleon Bonaparte, right? Or am I saying that right? Bonaparte? Is that?
Nah, just Bonaparte. Wow.
Bonaparte.
Here in America, we call it Bonaparte. But
yeah, Napoleon Bonaparte. And this is also something that makes you think of the revolution. Just a few days before that, you had Elon straight up saying a tweet. Can we find that tweet that Elon just put up? Because I should have showed that in the other video. But there's been a lot of references to the revolution. And if you look at what's going on right now, they are going and they're scraping all the way down to the bottom to all of the muck, and they are essentially tearing it all down and starting over. If you actually look at Elon's way of taking over companies, like he took over X, he essentially fired almost everyone and then built back up one thing at a time. And that has been his strategy. I forget what he calls it. He has an actual name for it. Like he has a saying. But it's essentially you tear down and you build up from scratch in the way that you want it. Dex, go ahead.
The tweet. It's up next.
Oh, perfect. So yeah, and that is how they are looking at the United States government and the budget, the entire thing. So this is a really, really, really crazy time. But one thing I think it's very eerie to me, and this is on kind of the crazier side, right? There's little things like this, which most people and normal people, if you talk about this at work at the water cooler, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, they're all talking about this. But it is very odd. Kendrick Lamar, of course, at the Super Bowl is part of his song. He goes, the revolution will be televised. And then he starts off his song, right? And in the 1 week, we've had now 3 major references that are all tied together. Of course, the president was at the Super Bowl, right? You had the president, Elon, and Kendrick Lamar at the Super Bowl. These things are all like, right in the same ball game, almost literally. And it's just very eerie. And then, of course, Elon has made many references to the revolution, including the tweet I showed you the other day before today's comments, which shows his box with a custom musket with a picture of the revolution right on his nightstand. So it's something that he wakes up to every day and looks at. I mean, like, that's literally on his nightstand. He goes to sleep and wakes up next to a revolution reference. And he literally said a second American revolution is needed to free the people from their oppression by the bureaucracy. His big thing is he's been weaponizing the mind against bureaucracy. He's been saying regulations and bureaucracy are our enemy, which I almost 100% agree with. But at the same time, he has kind of put this out there for a long time, and he does have a hardcore following. The people that follow Elon will follow Elon through everything. At the same time, you've got the people that hate Elon will hate him through everything. But this kind of comment, of course, the other side of the media is going to say, oh, well, this is irresponsible, and he can't say, he's calling for an American revolution. This is crazy. He very well could just be trolling. But this is a major comment from somebody who with over, how many followers does he have now? 200. I thought he was at like 100. I said it the other day. 218 million followers. So that is a message that went out to, millions of people at least. And it really does. It puts that just like idea out into the world. And then, of course, you have the president making a direct quote that really is, kicks back right to Napoleon. So is there a purposeful kind of mentioning of the revolution? Is that to plant a seed in our head? Most people that are deep into just everything predictive programming and things like this, you wouldn't put it past the world to have this kind of stuff happen and kind of come together like this. I'm probably not communicating that well, but essentially it's very odd how you see these things kind of implant into the greater mindset of people. A lot of people were talking about civil conflict last year or the year before when Civil War came out, right? It's like as everybody was talking about it, you have a movie that comes out, this movie, you have this show that's coming out about it, you have, these pundits talking about this. Everybody was talking about Civil War. Now everyone is talking about revolution. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you think that there is one coming? Could we actually have a second American Revolution? Some think it's even happening right now. Are we in the middle of one? What is your opinion? Let me know in the comments down below. Dex, as far as, do you want to give some input too, as far as his comments? Do you think he's just kind of trying to reference, like?
Well, look, I mean, 218 million followers. He is putting out so much information. Even if the platform, I mean, just the fact that he's got that large of an audience that he's pushing all of this out to, and it's not just this revolution comment. It's every comment. It's everything that we, that they uncover, that we, didn't normally hear in the media, or we would have never heard in the media before. He's almost, a mouthpiece. He absolutely is a mouthpiece, for a secondary mouthpiece for the president and everything that's going on, because he's got this. He's the largest, it's number one ranked account. The only person who, number two is Barack with 130. So
this tweet, which says, "I'm endlessly amused by infinite indignities I suffer on the very platform that I own." Basically, all the people attacking him on his own platform. 61 million views. There is no media in the world that can get that kind of viewership. I don't think anywhere close to that. Watch the Super Bowl, right? I don't think so. So on one of his random tweets, he gets 61 million people seeing it. Now that seems like, oh, it's a pinned tweet. That makes sense. But again, he gets hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views, 4 million tweeting videos. That's insane. Just to give you an idea, like CNN primetime doesn't get 1 million viewers anymore, at least. I believe that the Nielsen ratings, I think they're paid, by the way. I think Nielsen, my opinion, I believe that a lot of those they can pay for possible better ratings, but they put CNN at less than some of the YouTubers you watch. Some of the YouTubers you watch get more daily views or more monthly views than all of CNN put together, right? So that's pretty crazy. It just shows you that media has changed completely, and we are in a different world. In fact, the most powerful thing in the world right now is the internet. And that's, again, why we worry about it getting shut off, why we believe that they would go after power. You cut out power, you cut out the internet, you cut out the internet, you cut out infrastructure, you cut out pretty much everything. All right, and then Darren, thank you. Wings and Wags Patriot, Rochelle Cooley, again, thank you for your support today. I appreciate that. Thank you, ericsplace.com. All Things Random, thank you. Laura Gittins, I believe I missed you. I believe you're still here. Thank you. I appreciate that support. And then 909, thank you. Again, make sure to watch that Marfoogle News show. And then Inquiring Minds, thank you for being top supporter today. And Wings and Wags, thank you for being number 2 right behind that. And then thank you, Laura, for being number 3. Dex, thank you so much for your service today. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And remember, you have the full bibliography over at marfooglenews.com. Make sure to go check out any of the affiliates. All of them we believe in, and all of them will support the show at the same time as get you prepared. Main thing, though, have food, have water, and have medicine. Again, 3 main things, and then after that, move on to some of the other essentials. Thank you to your mods. Again, just a reminder, go over to marfooglenews.com/friends. You, of course, Bobby Sue, thank you so much. Thank you, Ilea. Thank you, Trinity Wages. Wages World, by the way, thank you for sending me that video. Very interesting stuff. And then thank you, Lisa. Rip Curl, thank you. RGL, Jammer, Optical, CJ, Chance, Bones, and so many of you out in the Foogle fam, thank you. And then remember, there's all sorts of other creators down there, so make sure to go check them out as well. Again, thank you guys. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.